Today I'm going to make some predictions about the Far East, and in particular I'm going to make some predictions about China, about Taiwan, about Japan and North and South Korea. I'm going to give you some insights about that area and what's happening now and into the future. China. The first place I'm going to talk about today is China in the Far East. Now, my sense with China at the moment, and I've got some other predictions I've already made about this, but my sense with China at the moment is that it's in a very dangerous sort of situation. China itself is like a tiger, and it's ready to do harm. It's ready to perhaps even go to war with some of the other countries surrounding it. But not yet. Obviously, the most serious concerns around China at the moment are still Hong Kong and the imposition of candidates in Hong Kong who are really, you're going to vote for who we tell you. And my sense is at the moment that there's not going to be immediately another uprising in Hong Kong. Not right now. But I feel there's going to be kind of a much more, I can't quite see what it is, but it's like they're going to do something very subtle. It's a bit like when here they all voted for the name of the boat and they all called it Boaty McBoatface. It was like a foolish sort of crazy vote. And I get the feeling something's going to happen in Hong Kong where the people vote for something almost a bit bonkers loony, something a bit crazy. And it kind of exposes the futility of the vote. So I don't see people like the umbrella protests and violence on the streets yet. But I do feel at the moment it's a very volatile, dangerous situation. And I feel the people in Hong Kong hoping to change the system there are going to behave in a very clever way. They're facing a tyranny in China, and the whole of China is facing a tyranny at the moment. Something as bad as when King Wen used to have to fight against the Shang dynasty, wasn't it? And when the evil tyrants of that time, and they tried to overcome it, and over many years gradually overcame the evil tyranny. And something's happening, I feel, in China now, where there's going to be an undermining of the superior kind of leaders there. But it's going to be done very, and all I can say is something very subtle going to go on. But China at the moment is very dangerous. It could, like a tiger, swipe us at any moment, including dangers towards Taiwan, dangers towards Japan. And there's a build-up there, military build-ups we know are happening there at the moment. But ultimately, I feel, and I've talked about this before, ultimately there's going to be a revolution in China. And it's going to come, but it's not yet, but it's going to come. And that revolution will overturn the Communist Party in China. And a new democracy will ultimately be found in China. And that democracy will be based upon the teachings of Sun Yat-sen, whose ideas will be brought forward in a new modern form to create a kind of unique form of democracy in China that will be a tremendous model for the world, actually, and particularly for developing countries. So this whole idea, I feel, is going to happen in China. The trade war that was happening with Trump is still going to continue with Biden. But it's going to be done in a lot less obvious way. But there will be definitely many trade restrictions between America and China. The big financial incentive going into America at the moment, I feel, is going to give, on a temporary period, is America's going to outstrip China in growth in the short term. Long term, China's going to try to come back. But much of that period of outstripping is also going to be for America a reconsideration of how we do trade with China. Same too with Australia. I feel Australia's not going to trade much with China as it used to do and provide cheap resources. And also even Europe, even though there is at the moment a big trade deal in place between Europe and China, I feel that is also going to see restrictions put upon it. In fact, there's also going to be additional problems ahead, I feel, happening around Iran and China's influence there is going to be questioned as well, and things exposed about things that have been going on in the background with China trying to buy up technology, trying to buy up anything that can socially influence the world, like TikTok, but also more of that. And it's going to be exposed, and there's going to be a kind of a war going on in the background, more so than we've seen before, particularly with the cyber wars and the wars online and the wars to try to use influence upon the world through social media. And I did predict a long time ago that there would be an alliance between Russia and China, and that as China moved its sights away from the markets in Europe and America, it focuses more on buying Russian expertise, Russian scientific progress that they made in the past, and particularly Russian technology and space technology. Now, I said about that, don't know how many years ago, but it's happening. It's happening now. These are some of the key points. China and Russia will become allies. They're going to create a dangerous military force that will threaten the area. There's going to be a lot of economic pressure on China because of a growing Cold War with the West. And this will create problems in society that will create a revolution that eventually brings about a new democracy. The world is going to look to China for compensation to the damage done to the world's economy by coronavirus. And this is going to be triggered because a new cover-up and many more new cover-ups are going to be exposed. And finally, a new virus will emerge from China. Fortunately, it will be stopped. Taiwan. Now, Taiwan is a democracy, and Taiwan lives in the shadow of China very much. And my feeling is that the West are not going to neglect Taiwan. I'm seeing quite a big military build-up, and I particularly feel there's going to be some form of conflict that's going to be stopped just in the right period of time, as it were, because I'm seeing submarine conflicts. I'm seeing something happening with submarines connected with Taiwan. And I feel there will be some kind of military action there, possibly with something that's been happening with China. This could blow out of proportion, but like I said, I don't feel that China's like a tiger ready to pounce at the moment. But it's not going to happen. I feel it's just going to be just be able to avert disaster. Taiwan is going to be very important for the revolution that will happen in China. I get in a sense, when I think of Taiwan, I'm thinking of revolution. And even though Taiwan itself is quite a stable country, I'm getting the feeling that there's going to be a revolution of some sort connected with Taiwan. And I feel that this could be not so much happening within the country itself, but maybe they are going to be the catalyst to help the revolution that I feel will happen in China. In their own day, they will be believed. There will be a movement, I feel. And like I talked about before, in China, I feel that Sun Yat-sen's teachings are ultimately going to be the model of a democracy. Sun Yat-sen is recognised very much in China, in Taiwan, as being like the father of the Chinese nation and the father of, Chinese democracy in many ways. And I feel his teachings are going to be spread much more into China with an edge to it that is much more modern. Things like social media, and that I feel like this will become like a propaganda war that will come from Taiwan. They're going to become much more self-confident because I'm seeing many more ships around Taiwan that are not Chinese, and I'm seeing many submarines and a deal done with submarines around Taiwan, and I'm seeing anti-aircraft, anti-nuclear missile type stuff put there to protect against possibly South Korea or possibly China, but it will be sort of fudged to not be able to say who's the enemy. So I'm seeing Taiwan as getting through some very difficult period for its history, and with the danger and threat of a invasion from China. But I want to say it won't happen. In fact, I feel the boot is going to be on the other foot, because as China caves in, people will turn, I feel, particularly to Taiwan as an example of what the whole of China could become. And the people of Hong Kong, I feel, will turn to Taiwan and see there a democracy that works and an economic system that works. So there's going to be this revolution in that whole area, and whole upheaval of new things happening there. But it can be done, like I said about China, it's going to be done in a very subtle sort of way, and with the objective of getting a proper system in place. Not about seeking revenge, not about bloodshed, not about ideology, but getting something in place that works for the whole region. Japan. Now, I've made predictions about Japan before. Earlier on, I said that there would be that the Olympic Games would be stopped. You remember, some time ago, I said that way before the coronavirus. I didn't know it would be the coronavirus. I said it would be it would be caused by an earthquake. So I think there may be some small problems with the Olympics yet. They're going to hold the Olympics without an audience at the moment in Japan. But I get the sense that there might be further problems ahead with that. And that's something I've spoken about before. And I've also spoken about this before, and I feel this is going to happen because there's already moves happening in the news I see about this, but I've spoken about it before. That Japan start to arm itself more, would start to buy arms and be given technology from America. I saw that happening in the Trump administration. It didn't, but it looks like it might happen now. And I feel that this is going to be good for the whole region, because this is more defensive. It's not offensive type things. It feels to me to be initially much more defensive against the possibility of a rising China and a rising China with nuclear power, nuclear weapons. So I feel that Japan may even one day start to move towards having its own nuclear armaments, and I know this is something that's very much resisted in Japan, but I feel as if this will happen. Now, what I am sensing, now those are all a little bit negative type things, but I am also getting a feeling that Japan has been in a state of decrease for a long time. It's had to reduce its industries quite a lot. Its power in the world stage has reduced quite a lot considering what it used to be like. But I'm getting the feeling that now and into the immediate future of years, so quite a few years ahead, I'm seeing a rebirth of the Japanese economy, actually, and a greater influence and interest in the region at large. So I'm seeing Japan, I talked about Taiwan. Now, Japan and Taiwan, they've never got on because of what happened in the past. But neither did Britain and Germany. And now we're akin democracies. And I feel Japan and Taiwan and other areas in the region, South Korea with them as well, Japan will become a kind of a leading economic light and become kind of a hub of a new kind of trade that's not necessarily dependent upon America so much and Europe and those areas, but much more very much a power in the region and a strong power for peace Japan will become. So I'm seeing sort of, as we come out of all these terrible times of coronavirus, where so many countries have been kind of on their knees economically, and I just feel that Japan is going to be one of these countries that's going to be absolutely determined to make things good again. So I'm seeing a very, very, very important economic increase happening in Japan. And I feel this is going to be kind of very sudden, and then it will be sustained afterwards. Not with huge growth all the time, but particularly I get this sense that there's a sudden improvement in their economic outlook, and a much greater sense of security and a sense of pride in the country as well, as it begins to extend its influence and try to become the balancing force against the influence of China in the area. And I see them doing deals all over the world, and much more economic growth with Japan, but becoming much more, in a way, much more self-reliant and focusing its attention much more on the East, rather than trying to sell cars into Europe and cars into and technology and cars and all the rest of it into Europe and things. I'm seeing it becoming like the guardian of the East, and a lot of American money and investment going in there in the long term as well, and maybe even a deal with India I see with Japan that will be quite important to them. North and South Korea. Now, my sense with North Korea, first of all, is that it's been through a terrible time with all its firing its weapons and things, and its Kim Jong-un's crazy sort of attempts at trying to draw attention to the country. And we can now fire missiles all the way to America sort of attitude. I'm seeing for the short term a very much a quietening of this, almost a sort of modesty coming from the country, which has been very rare in their politics. As if we're not now going to make so much noise and try to distract our people with this idea that we are the great nation that have this power over the world. I think they're going to move their focus now much more to the economy of North Korea, and we're going to see them talking about getting back to work and actually trying to do some of the things that I think got in the mind of the leaders there about this idea that we can build big hotels and things like this. The idea that Trump put into their heads about, this could all be developed, And I feel that Kim Jong-un has kind of got that mentality, that mentality of once something's stuck in his mind, it keeps coming back and coming back and coming back. I feel he's got a kind of obsessive mind. And I'm seeing some big financial development there, possibly with the help of South Korea, to develop what I feel is a kind of resort, a kind of international resort, a way of getting dollars into the country and other currencies. And this is something that, whether it happens or not, I'm not sure, but I get the sense that it's going to be talked about, and it's going to be in the news, and it's going to be unusual because it's not the sort of move we expect. So we're looking for kind of foreign investment into the country, as if everything's all right now. And of course it's not all right now, because we've still got crazy people in charge there. And ultimately, I've said with North Korea that Kim Jong-un would be thrown by his own people eventually. That will happen in time, and he will flee from the country and try to seek refuge in China and hide. That will happen ultimately. But for now, I'm seeing a change in the atmosphere there. I'm seeing much more peace around that country, and I'm seeing deals being done with South Korea. And I'm not seeing at this time, ultimately there will be, I think, a reunification of North and South Korea. Not there yet, but I'm seeing better moves. I'm seeing much more talk. I'm seeing much more actual joint ventures done together. But it's still a very, very dangerous situation. And while this is going on, I see South Korea still having to keep spending lots of money building defensive stuff. Stop again, particularly joining in this sort of whole ring there between Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea as well, as a defensive league of some sort that is going to gradually develop there, and all investing in naval, all investing in air, all having to spend perhaps unnecessary money to defend themselves against two possible problems, China and North Korea. So there's money being wasted there as well. But I do sense some sort of optimism that there may be some good political dialogue between North and South Korea over the coming year as we start to come out of this very dark period of coronavirus. And I think there's quite a lot of room for hope there at the moment. I did also see, this is, sorry to give you a negative here as well, but I did see a huge fire of some sort in South Korea. It felt like it was across a whole landscape. So I don't know if there's a gigantic forest fire or something like that, or a chemical fire or something like that. There's something like that that I see happening when I tuned into South Korea, and it's this feeling with it here. But I feel in the end that there's some room for optimism. My feeling now is between the North and the South, but the danger that's growing for all of the countries in the region is the military influence of China. I feel it's like I said at the start, it's like a tiger ready to pounce, and we've got to deal with it very, very carefully. It's like the I Ching says about treading on the tail of a tiger. We must tread very carefully. That whole region is going to become more and more volatile over the next 2 to 3 years, and there's going to be some conflicts, like I said, and I particularly see submarines at this point. So I might see other things later, but I see if there's going to be some big submarine conflict in the area that is going to be upsetting for all the nations of that area. But it will be very, very tense. It will hold, people will be worried about war, but I feel ultimately we'll get through it without this terrible major conflict. Right. Okay. Thank you all for listening to this. I hope it's been interesting to you. If you do enjoy all this type of work, do follow the channel, of course, because if you follow the channel here, you'll get updates every time I put a new prediction out. And if you really find it interesting, if you want to find and ask me questions personally, you can become a patron of the channel, and that will help me and Jane also to keep these programs coming out like this. And don't forget, on Fridays we always have a live show at 7 o'clock UK time every Friday, and Jane and I sort of are much more lighter than some of the stuff that I do, but we have a sort of a chat about psychic things, and we take your questions. Okay, thanks for joining us. See you soon. Bye for now. Hi, I'm Craig Hamilton Parker, and you've seen myself and my wife Jane on our YouTube channel, in which we've been talking about all sorts of spiritual things and trying to do something important in the world. You would have seen that we've done a lot of spiritual work, and particularly charitable work, in India. We've given cows to old people, we've helped orphans, we've helped people that are hungry, and kids that are hungry, and beggars and so forth, all through many of the donations that have come through to us at the Hamilton Parker Foundation. But we want to do much, much more. And the most important thing, and that's where we're trying to raise money specifically here, is we want to open a spiritual centre. Now, we're not talking about religion. This is spirituality. Anybody that's followed us on our channel will know that we're trying to encourage people to become more spiritual. And you don't have to be religious. You can follow your own religions. That's fantastic. You know, you might gain from that. But we're trying to do something that will reach everybody on a spiritual level. Now, we've been doing things like meditation. You know, we're both mediums, so we're very interested in the idea of the afterlife and connection with the spiritual world. We also have been doing predictions about politics and things like that, which, you know, have been kind of helping people to think about these things. But also think about these things in a very spiritual way and understand that each of us has to awaken. But we need somewhere to do this. We need what we want to do, our first step for the first stage of a spiritual centre is to have kind of like a media centre. Somewhere where we can get all the filming done and present stuff in a very professional way, and also be able to have guests and people in and be able to go there, have it ready, set up, and we can produce much more work. And this also will give Jane and I more time to be able to do these things, be able to get involved and spend our years doing this and to help make the world a better place. So anyway, you can help. So if you can give a donation to this page, it would be fantastic because it would help us. It doesn't have to be a lot, but I know that from many of you that have known us, some of you celebrities out there that have been to see Jane and myself as well, you can help. You know, give a substantial amount if you can too. Give a big amount, you know, because we're going to need much more than this. And, you know, we're not gaining from it. It's not for us, it's for everybody. So if you can help, if you're inspired by what we've been trying to do online, please do give a donation, and it would be absolutely fantastic for everybody. We can make the world a better place between us, can't we? Okay, well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for giving your donations. Okay, see you soon. Bye for now.